Welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I will show you 3 different ways to add a lifeline to your knitting project. Adding a lifeline to your stitches as they rest on your needle is really as easy as taking a tapestry needle and threading some contrasting color yarn, preferably a cotton thread, into the tapestry needle, and then thread that tapestry needle through the live stitches on your needle, making sure you are not splitting any of the stitches at all. This can be done on circular needles or straight needles, just like so. If you're using circular needles, it's really easy if you take those stitches and move them to the cord part of your circular and then thread the tapestry needle through all of those stitches. It just adds a little bit of extra security to your work because you have now positioned those stitches on a string that is just going to rest there. It's not going to do anything else. And if you should happen to mess up and need to rip out your work, you now have a lifeline through those stitches so that they won't fall or go anywhere. The biggest thing to remember is as you're working back along these stitches, do not accidentally knit into the lifeline. Pretend the lifeline is not there and just continue on in your pattern, ignoring the lifeline. If you're working on a project and you realize there's a mistake some point up in this part and you're going to have to rip back, so you have to add a lifeline after the fact, that can be done as well. Take a strand of yarn just like before and put it onto your tapestry needle. Working on a row below the mistake, so this will be the row you're ripping back to, take your tapestry needle and working into only the right leg of the stitch. So a stitch is typically just like this, like it's a V. We want to only work into the right leg of the stitch, and we want to thread our tapestry needle through that leg. So we will just go down the row, trying to make sure that you're on the same row as you work along, and only grab the right leg of each V stitch. As you work along, you can pull the yarn through and then just continue on all the way down the row. Once this is all in place, you now have secured a spot in your knitting that will not allow the stitches to fall any further than that row because all the stitches are resting on your lifeline. Okay, so you would go all the way down the row with this. Another option, and one that I use quite frequently, is use a pair of circular needles to be your lifeline. We've added these lifelines to our work, but if we go back to those stitches, we still have to thread them onto a needle to work into them. But if we use a smaller needle, a much smaller needle than the needle we're using, this is a size 0, you can do the same motion as we did by adding this lifeline, only now we're going to place it directly onto our needle. So I'm going to grab the right side of the leg and then make sure I'm following down the same row and just grab that right leg all the way down. By doing this, I am placing those stitches on this circular needle, which means when I rip back to this point, all of these stitches will not only be on a lifeline, but they will already be on a needle. So all I'll have to do is knit the stitches directly off of the needle. I won't have to transition from a lifeline line of string to a needle. They'll already be on there. You can now see that all of my stitches are resting on the cord of my circular needle. So if I were to rip out all of these rows all the way down to this circular, all of those stitches would now be on this circular needle, and I would hold this needle in my left hand and I would be ready to knit directly off of it. Even though the size of the needle I'm knitting off of is completely different from the size of the needle I'm knitting onto, the stitches will not be affected. The size of the stitch is determined by the size of the needle we're knitting onto. Now you know how to add a lifeline and you can carry on with your knitting projects with some security. Find more helpful knitting tips right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Be sure to smash that like button, as my kids say. Bye, everybody.